But one player that we know Michigan's going to have to account for today, defensive end Chase Young, averaging more sacks per game than any player this century, and that includes former NFL Pro Bowlers Terrell Suggs, Elvis Dumervil, and Dwight Freeney. Heisman ballots, they go out this week. Charles, you are the only one to win that award as a primarily defensive player. Does Young have a realistic shot to take home the hardware in New York City?
I think he absolutely has a shot, and I think this thing was set up for him weeks ago when people started claiming that he was the best player in the country, hands down, whether offense or defense. I think he, when he got suspended, though, I think that kind of derailed it a little bit. I think in the eyes of some voters, that will take away from him a little bit. But you think about those 2 games that he missed, Maryland, Rutgers. Look, he had 3 sacks last week against Penn State. We can almost safely assume that he would have had another 3 or 4 sacks a game against those particular teams. And then he would have had Penn State left and Michigan again at the end of the season. So you think about this. He could have had game-changing plays in those 2 games, his 2 biggest rivals, at the end of the season when it counts the most, when it comes to winning the Heisman Trophy. You guys know that. So it was set up for him. I think that derailed him a little bit with the suspension. And then also we saw the team without him. Yeah. We saw him play against Ohio State play without him, and they still rolled. They still dominated. Doesn't take away from him being one of the best players in the country, but you saw a team dominate without their best player.
Yeah, I certainly think he has an opportunity, and you said it, at the end of the season when games matter the most. And I would just encourage, I take a lot of pride in being a Heisman voter, guys. And I watch these games very closely, especially now when you're going up against one of the top teams in the country, Michigan, and then next week in the Big Ten championship game. So I would just encourage all of the voters to really watch closely. Chase Young, watch Joe Burrow, watch everybody that's involved in this list. And I still think Joe Burrow is the front runner for what he's done on the biggest stage. But it's set up for Chase Young. It was last week, it's today, and it's next week. He is the best player in college football and should be considered for the Heisman Trophy.
And I actually think the suspension can make for a better story. Because when we saw, once he came back from suspension, he had 3 sacks against Penn State. He balled out against Wisconsin as well. So I think it's safe to assume that he will be at the Heisman ceremony. But if he has another 3 or 4 sack game today, he could be considered to win the Heisman Trophy. And then if he does it again next week in the Big Ten championship, forget about it. I think it's his. I think it'll be his to lose at that point.
If I had a vote, I'd be voting for him. All right, he's the best player in college football. Everyone tries to stop him. They can't stop him. And I think Michigan's going to have a hard time today. The thing that impresses me the most about him, he's doing it in an era, Charles, where I think it's as hard as ever for an edge rusher to have an impact. Spread offenses, all these screens, the different zone reads they've got to deal with. And on top of it, the ball gets out of the quarterback's hands so quick. Yet he's still having an impact, and he's not just a one-trick pony. He plays good against the run, too. Had 9 total tackles just a week ago to go along with those 3 sacks. So, in my vote, right now, he'd be my front runner, but you're right. Joe Burrow, what he's done, he's right there, too.
7 sacks in the last 2 weeks.
Those last 2 games he's played.
Last 2 games, I mean, yes, 7 sacks.
Now, you guys know we got 3 Heisman Trophy winners up here. I have an issue about the voting. They should wait until after the championship game and explain. I'm appealing. Why not? I want to hear why not. You're getting your ballot next week. Wait until after the biggest games. Get rid of the easy games. If Chase Young plays great today in the biggest game of the year and next week, I think he wins the Heisman Trophy. Joe Burrow's had his Heisman moments. Get rid of the easy games. How do they play in the big games? The best players like this, and this played in the best games. They played their best in the biggest games.
I think you're right. And usually, you go against a top opponent in your conference championship game, and those games are coming up. But what Chase Young has is he has his biggest rival this week, and then he has a chance in the conference championship game to get his chance to go to the college football playoff and possibly get to another championship.
Hey, we've been to wild places. This is
wild as heck right now, Coach. This is wild.
This is great. Love it.
Real quick wrap-up on the Heisman conversation. I know the ballots come out this week. You know what? Don't send them. Don't give the voters a chance to vote early. Give them the ballots after the games have been completed.
Why is it that hard, Rob? Why is it that hard?
It doesn't seem hard to me, but we'll have to ask the good people in New York City.
Best players, we have 4 of them, play their best in the big games.
Yep. Yes. Agreed. We're good with that?
We're good.
All right, we're good. All right, so I'll make sure.
College football's fiercest rivals headline the biggest Big Noon Saturday on Fox. It all starts with a special 2-hour Big Noon Kickoff live from the Big House. Then field to number 1 Ohio State face Harbaugh, number 13 Michigan in the most anticipated game of the year. America's best pregame, America's best announcers, America's greatest rivalry. Ohio State, Michigan, all part of Big Noon Saturday on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.